Cold rain fell hard on the quiet city street. It was the kind of rain that made people run fast, hide under roofs, and avoid dark places. But on this night, something strange sat alone near a broken streetlight. It was a woman, but not a human woman. Her skin had a soft blue glow, her hair fell like silver threads, and her eyes were filled with fear. She sat with her knees pulled up, shaking. As rain hit her like thousands of needles, she did not care about the cold. She was already hurting in ways no human could understand. Her name was Soraya, and tonight she had nowhere to go. She was homeless, hunted, and afraid. She tried to hide her face with her hands, but the rain washed away every attempt. Every second she expected someone to see her and scream. Every second she expected the hunters to find her again. She knew they were close, she could feel it in her bones. Then footsteps echoed in the empty street. Soraya froze, her whole body tensed, ready to run, even though she had no strength left. But the footsteps were small, light, almost playful. Not the heavy boots of soldiers, not the cold metal steps of security drones. These were the steps of a child. A tiny umbrella appeared in the rain, bright yellow like a small sun. Under it walked a little girl, maybe 8 years old. Her shoes splashed in the water, her hair stuck to her face. But she was smiling softly at the rain. She looked around as if searching for something. Then her eyes landed on Soraya. Sitting and shaking under the broken streetlight, the girl stopped, frozen for a moment. Most children would scream, run home, or cry in fear. But this girl did something completely unexpected. She walked toward Soraya, slowly, carefully, like she was approaching a hurt animal. Soraya pulled back, trying to hide her glowing skin. She whispered, "Please, don't come close." Her voice trembled like a broken instrument. But the little girl kept walking. She reached Soraya and held the umbrella above both of them. The girl looked at her huge sad eyes and trembling hands. Then she said the words that shocked Soraya more than anything else. "I think I need to hug you. Are you hurt?" Soraya stared at her, confused. No human had ever looked at her with kindness. No human child had ever spoken to her without fear. Soraya tried to speak, but only a weak sound came out. The girl gently sat beside her, letting the rain fall on her own small legs. She moved closer, almost touching Soraya's glowing arm. "My name is Mila," the girl said. "I think you are crying." Soraya did not even realize tears were falling down her face until Mila touched her cheek. The touch was warm, gentle, and full of innocent care. Soraya's voice cracked. "You should go. It is not safe near me." But Mila shook her head. "You look more scared than dangerous," before Soraya could respond. A sharp sound cut through the rain. A deep robotic hum echoed above them. Soraya's eyes widened in terror. A dark drone floated in the sky, scanning the street with red lights. It moved slowly, searching for something. No. Someone. Soraya knew exactly who. She grabbed Mila and pulled her under the shadow of the broken streetlight. The girl gasped but did not scream. Soraya whispered, "Please stay quiet." The drone's red scanner beam swept across the street like a hunting animal sniffing for its prey. It stopped, right above them. Mila's heart pounded. Soraya covered her with her body, shielding her from view. The drone buzzed, almost as if it could smell Soraya's fear. A low mechanical voice said, "Scanning. Searching for escaped subject." Soraya's breath caught in her throat. Mila held Soraya's hand tightly, refusing to let go. The drone hovered lower, its light brightening the street. Soraya closed her eyes, waiting for the alarm, waiting for the soldiers. She knew once they found her, she would be taken again, and this time she might not survive. But suddenly, a car drove into the street, its headlights flashing straight into the drone. The drone jerked, confused by the bright light. It changed direction for a moment, and Soraya used that second. She grabbed Mila's hand and whispered, "Run." The girl nodded, trusting her completely. Together, they sprinted into a narrow alley, rain splashing under their feet. Soraya's heart raced, not just with fear, but with something new, hope. A tiny child had stood beside her in the rain. A tiny child who wanted to hug her. A tiny child who looked at her like she was not a monster, but someone who needed help. Behind them, the drone turned sharply and locked onto their escape path. Its alarm screamed through the night. The hunt had begun again, and this time, Soraya was not running alone. Cold rain hit the alley walls as Soraya pulled little Mila deeper into the darkness. The sound of the drone grew louder behind them, its red lights cutting through the wet night like knives. Mila's small hand trembled in Soraya's grip. But she did not slow down. She trusted the alien woman completely. Even though she barely knew her name, Soraya's feet splashed through puddles. Her breath short and sharp, every step felt heavy. As if fear itself had wrapped chains around her legs, Mila looked up at her and whispered, "Are they bad people?" Soraya did not answer right away. Her heart pounding too hard, she only said, "They will hurt both of us if they find us." They turned a corner and hid behind a large metal trash bin. The drone's searchlight passed across the alley entrance. Bright and angry, Soraya pressed Mila gently against the wall. Covering her with her body again, she whispered. "Close your eyes," Mila obeyed, trusting without question. The drone hovered outside for a long second. It scanned the area with a high-pitched sound that made Soraya's skin burn. Her glowing blue marks flickered like frightened stars. She held her breath, praying the machine would not detect them. Finally, the drone moved on, drifting toward the main road. Soraya let out a shaking breath. Mila opened one eye and whispered, "Is it gone?" "For now," Soraya replied. Her voice soft and tired. They left the alley and ran again. Passing old buildings and closed shops, a flickering neon sign buzzed above them, throwing strange shadows on Soraya's face. She looked like someone running from her own nightmares. Mila looked like a little light trying to keep up. Rain fell harder, almost attacking them. Mila's small umbrella had been lost during the chase. Her hair was soaked, her shoes squished with every step. But she did not complain, she only asked, "Where are we going?" Soraya hesitated, because she did not know. She had nowhere to go, no home, no safe place. Every corner of this city held danger for her. But she could not let the child stay in the open rain with drones hunting them. "There is an old bridge," Soraya said finally. "Maybe we can hide there." Mila nodded and followed her without fear. It was strange, Soraya thought. Why would a human child trust an alien more than her own people? They reached the abandoned bridge at the edge of the city. Rust covered the metal bars, and broken glass lay scattered on the ground. It smelled like wet mud and old memories. But it was quiet, hidden, and dark enough for a short rest. Soraya sat on a cracked stone and pulled her knees close again. Mila sat beside her, hugging her own arms. She looked up at the alien woman and whispered, "You're shaking." Soraya forced a small smile. "I am cold." But they both knew it was not the rain that made her tremble. Mila leaned a little closer, her small shoulder touching Soraya's arm. "You protected me from the machine," she said. "Why?" Soraya looked at the child, surprised by such a simple question. "I do not know," she whispered, "but when I saw you, I felt something warm." Mila giggled softly. "Maybe it was kindness," Soraya blinked. Shocked, kindness, a word she had not heard in a long time, before she could reply. They heard distant voices, human voices, deep and serious. Soraya's blood ran cold. She pulled Mila down behind a broken concrete block. Soldiers walked under the bridge with flashlights. Their uniforms were dark, their helmets shining with rainwater. One of them said, "Subject is close." "Sensors picked up energy here," another replied. "Be careful. She is dangerous." Soraya felt Mila's small hand grab her arm. The child whispered, You're not dangerous. Soraya closed her eyes, wishing the soldiers knew that too. A soldier kicked a can on the ground and pointed his light toward their corner. Soraya held Mila tightly, ready to run again even though her body was beyond tired. The soldier stepped closer, his boots splashing in the water. He said, "Check behind the blocks." Soraya's heart stopped. But just as he reached for their hiding spot, his radio crackled loudly. "Unit 3, report to Sector 7. Drone detected movement." The soldier jerked his head up. Frustrated, "Fine, we're moving," he said, stepping back. The soldiers marched away, their flashlight beams fading into the rain. Soraya and Mila stayed still for a long moment. Only when the footsteps completely disappeared did Soraya breathe again. Mila whispered. "They almost found us." Soraya nodded. "Yes. And they will keep looking." The alien woman stood up slowly, her legs weak but determined. "We cannot stay here," she said. "The hunters will return." Mila stood too, holding Soraya's glowing hand tightly. "Then I will come with you," the girl said. "Wherever you go." Soraya looked at her with shock and confusion. "Why?" she asked softly. Mila smiled, simple and brave. "Because you saved me," she said. "So now I save you, for the first time in many nights." Soraya felt something more powerful than fear. She felt hope. Together, they stepped out of the shadows and into the rainy night, running not just to escape, but to find a way to survive together. The storm eased a little as Soraya and Mila walked through the old subway entrance. Broken gates hung loose, and wet leaves covered the stairs like fallen memories. Mila held Soraya's hand tightly, even though the alien woman told her many times to let go if she got scared. But the child simply said, "You need me." Soraya did not argue, because something inside her believed it was true. The underground tunnel smelled of rust, water, and forgotten stories. Dim yellow lights flickered along the ceiling, some dying, some fighting to stay alive. The place was cold, lonely, and full of eerie echoes. But it was still safer than the streets above where hunters searched for them. Soraya leaned against a wall, breathing slowly. Her glowing blue skin had become dim, almost fading. Mila looked worried and asked, "Does it hurt?" Soraya shook her head, even though the pain inside her chest felt like fire. "It is not the body," she said softly. "It is memory." Mila sat on a metal crate and hugged her knees. She waited quietly, knowing Soraya was ready to tell her something important. The alien woman sat down beside her, too tired to stay standing. Her voice was weak but clear. "My name is Soraya," she said. "I come from a planet called Elindra." Mila's eyes widened, but she did not interrupt. Soraya continued. "Elindra was once full of light, full of forests that glowed in the night, full of rivers that sang when the wind touched them." Her voice shook. "But now it is dying," Mila whispered. "Why?" Soraya closed her eyes and said, "Our sun is sick." Mila frowned, confused. "A sun can be sick." "Yes," Soraya replied. "When a star becomes unstable, it starts to collapse, and everything around it begins to end." She took a long breath, her eyes filled with sadness. "My people searched for help, for answers, for anyone who understood our star's sickness." She looked at the ground. "And we found someone." Mila leaned closer. "Who?" "A human scientist," Soraya whispered. "A man who studied stars and energy. A man who promised to save us." Her voice became sharp, full of pain. "He said he would help. He said humans and Elindrians could work together. He said hope was possible." Mila waited, sensing the rest was darker. Soraya's hands trembled as she continued. "But when I arrived on Earth, he lied." The tunnel lights flickered, as if reacting to her pain. "He trapped me," Soraya whispered. "He locked me in a lab, studied me like an animal, used machines to hurt me, tried to take my energy for himself." Mila's small mouth fell open in shock. "Why would he do that?" she asked. Because he wanted power, Soraya replied. He thought my energy could become a weapon. He wanted to sell it to the leaders of this world. Mila hugged her own arms tightly. She had never imagined humans could be that cruel. She looked at Soraya and asked in a small voice, "Did you escape alone?" Soraya nodded slowly. "Yes." But not easily. She touched a glowing mark on her arm. "This scar is from a machine he used to drain my power." Another mark glowed faintly on her side. "This one is from when I broke the containment chamber." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "I almost died." Mila's heart hurt for her, without thinking. The girl gently leaned against Soraya's shoulder. Soraya stiffened at first, unused to kindness, but then she relaxed. Letting the child's warmth calm her shaking hands, they sat like that for a long moment, listening to distant drops of water fall from rusty pipes. Then a low metallic sound echoed through the tunnel. Soraya's eyes snapped open, alert. Mila whispered. "What was that?" Soraya stood up slowly. Her senses sharp. "It is not hunters," she said softly. "It is something else." She stepped forward, listening. The echo came again, louder. Like metal legs tapping the floor, Mila grabbed Soraya's hand, afraid. Something moved at the far end of the tunnel. A small shape with glowing eyes, a search robot, round and spider-like, crawled out of the shadows. Its red lights blinked rapidly. Scanning the tunnel air, Soraya whispered, "It is looking for energy traces." The robot turned its glowing eyes toward them. Its legs clicked faster. Its sensors glowing brighter. Mila gasped. "It sees you." Soraya pulled the child behind her. "Run!" They sprinted through the tunnel, their footsteps echoing loudly. The robot chased them, shooting beams of red light that sparked against the walls. Soraya used her weak energy to create a small flash of blue light. The robot stumbled, confused for a moment, but it recovered quickly and continued chasing them. They reached a side door and slipped inside just as the robot fired another red beam. The beam hit the wall, making it crack loudly. Soraya pulled the door shut and blocked it with a metal pipe. The robot rammed the door once, twice, then stopped. Its legs clicked away, searching elsewhere. Inside the small maintenance room, Mila and Soraya sat on the floor, breathing hard. Mila whispered, "Why won't they stop chasing you?" Soraya looked at her with sad eyes. "Because I am the only one who knows the truth about the scientist, and because he fears what I might reveal." Mila looked at her with determination far too strong for an 8-year-old. "Then we tell the truth," she said. "We find someone good. Someone who will listen." Soraya stared at the brave child beside her. Amazed, "Are you sure?" she asked. "This is dangerous." Mila squeezed her glowing hand. "I am not leaving you," the girl said. "Not now." For the first time since arriving on Earth, Soraya felt like she was not alone. Together they stood up, ready to face the next danger waiting in the shadows of the subway night. The subway station smelled like wet concrete and old dust. Soraya and Mila stood in the shadow of the maintenance room door. The small light above flickered, barely keeping the darkness at bay. Mila clutched Soraya's hand, her tiny fingers trembling with fear. Soraya's glowing skin had dimmed even more, and she felt weaker than ever. But she refused to show it. For the first time, she had someone to protect, someone who cared. "I don't like this place," Mila whispered, looking around the dark tunnel. "It's safe for now," Soraya replied softly. "We will find a way out soon." But deep inside, Soraya knew they were running out of time. The soldiers would not give up. The drones would never stop searching. They walked through the dim tunnels, trying to avoid the main paths. The sound of water dripping echoed in the silence. Soraya kept her senses sharp, listening for any signs of danger. But Mila's voice broke through the quiet. "I think people are afraid of you," she said quietly. Soraya stopped in her tracks, surprised by the simple truth. "What do you mean?" she asked. Turning to face Mila, Mila's eyes were soft, full of understanding beyond her age. They see your glowing skin. They hear about you being different, and they're afraid. She paused and added, "But I'm not afraid of you." Soraya's heart ached. She had never known a human could speak with such innocence. "I'm glad you're not afraid," she said. Her voice filled with quiet gratitude, but even as she spoke, she knew the world would never be so kind. Humans had built walls around themselves. Walls made of fear and misunderstanding, and Soraya was an unknown. An alien, someone they could not understand. Suddenly, a sound echoed in the distance. The low hum of drones, the pounding of footsteps. Soraya's breath caught in her throat. "They're here," she whispered. "We have to move," Mila nodded, her face serious now. The girl had grown from scared to determined in an instant. Soraya marveled at her strength, how easily Mila adapted to the danger around them. Together, they ducked into a side tunnel, running as fast as they could. The sound of their footsteps mixed with the distant clanging of soldiers' boots. The tunnel twisted and turned, narrowing in places. Soraya's heart raced in her chest. Not just from fear, but from something else. Something she couldn't name, the feeling that Mila was depending on her. The feeling that she had to protect this child, no matter the cost. At the end of the tunnel, they came to an old steel door. It was rusty and covered in grime, but Soraya knew it could lead them to a safer part of the city. She tried the door handle, locked. Her heart sank. Then Mila said, "I can help." Soraya looked at her in surprise. Mila pulled a small shiny tool from her pocket, a tiny screwdriver. "I've seen my grandpa fix things," Mila explained. "I can do this." Soraya smiled, "despite everything." "You're very brave," she said softly. Mila knelt down and worked quickly. Twisting the tool into the lock, Soraya watched, amazed at the girl's calm determination. After a few seconds, there was a soft click. Mila stood up and turned the handle. The door creaked open, revealing a narrow stairway leading up. "Good job," Soraya said, her voice full of pride. Mila grinned. "I told you I could help." They stepped into the stairway. Moving quickly but quietly, the door shut behind them with a soft thud. The air felt colder up here, and the city sounds were muffled. It was clear they were far from the heart of the city. But that didn't mean they were safe. Soraya's senses tingled. She felt the weight of Mila's trust. She felt the growing danger that still hovered around them. And most of all, she felt the divide between humans and aliens. A divide built on fear, on misunderstanding. At the top of the stairs, they found themselves in a small alley. It was a quiet place, hidden between old buildings. But something didn't feel right. The street was empty, too empty. The air was still. The kind of stillness that always came before something bad. Soraya looked around, her mind racing. "We have to go," she said. "Stay close." But as they stepped onto the street, a voice echoed from behind them. "Stop right there." Soraya's heart skipped a beat. They turned to see two soldiers standing at the end of the alley. Their faces were hidden behind helmets, their guns raised. "We've been looking for you," one of them said. "It's over, alien." Soraya's eyes flashed with anger. She stepped forward, but Mila pulled her back. "Please don't fight," Mila said, her voice shaking. "Why are you chasing her?" she asked the soldiers. "She didn't do anything wrong." The soldiers glanced at each other. The first one spoke again. "You don't understand." "Kid, we don't need to understand," Mila replied boldly. "All we need is kindness." Soraya looked down at the girl. Stunned by her words for a moment, she felt something shift inside her. The soldiers hesitated, their guns lowering just slightly. But then the second soldier spoke coldly. "Get out of the way." "Child." And the first one said, "She's dangerous." Just like the rest, Mila didn't move. She stood firm, facing the soldiers without fear. "I'm not afraid of her," she said. "And I'm not afraid of you." Soraya stood silently beside her, watching the scene unfold. In that moment, the true battle was not between the soldiers and the alien. It was between fear and the human heart. And for the first time, Soraya wasn't alone in that fight. The tension in the alley was thick. Mila stood between Soraya and the soldiers, her small body trembling, but her eyes fierce and unafraid. The first soldier slowly raised his gun, but before he could take a step, another voice echoed from the far end of the street. "Hold your fire, soldier." Everyone turned. A figure emerged from the shadows, tall and confident. His dark coat flapped as he walked closer. Soraya's heart skipped a beat. She knew this man. It was the scientist, Dr. Sebastian Creel. The same man who had promised to save her people. The same man who had betrayed her. He stopped a few feet away, his sharp eyes scanning the scene. "I told you to stop, soldier," Creel repeated, his voice cold and commanding. The soldiers lowered their weapons, confused, but unwilling to argue with their superior. Soraya's pulse raced. She wanted to run, to escape. But Mila's hand was still gripping hers tightly. The girl wasn't afraid, and somehow, that gave Soraya strength. Creel's gaze landed on Soraya, his lips curling into a twisted smile. "I see you're still alive," he said. "And you brought a child with you." Mila stepped forward, her voice clear. "Why are you chasing her?" Creel looked at Mila, studying her as if she were an interesting specimen. "Because she's dangerous," he said simply. "She's a threat to everything we've worked for." Soraya took a step forward, blocking Mila. "The only thing you've worked for is profit," she spat, her voice filled with anger. Creel's eyes narrowed, but his smile only grew wider. "You never understood the bigger picture, did you, Soraya?" he said. "My work is about saving humanity." Mila frowned. "Saving humanity," she repeated. "But you're hurting people." Creel's smile faded slightly. "Sometimes the ends justify the means." "Child," he said, "the world is dying, and I'm doing what's necessary to keep it alive." Soraya could feel the anger bubbling up inside her. This man had caused so much pain, to her and to so many others. She clenched her fists, the glow of her skin flickering in the dark. Mila looked up at her and whispered, "We can stop him, right?" Soraya met her gaze, and for the first time, she wasn't sure. She had been running for so long, always afraid of facing the truth. But now, with this child beside her, the weight of her past felt lighter. For the first time in many years, Soraya felt hope. "You think you can stop me?" Creel said, his voice mocking. Soraya turned her attention back to him, her face hard. "I already did," she said, her voice low and determined. "What are you talking about?" Creel asked, his smile faltering. Soraya's heart raced as she spoke. "I know what you did to my people. I know you used my DNA to create a weapon, a virus that will wipe out both our species." Creel's face went pale for a moment. He hadn't expected her to know. He hadn't expected her to fight back. Mila stepped forward, her eyes full of courage. "You're wrong," she said. "You don't have to hurt anyone." Soraya looked down at the child, amazed once again by her strength. She turned back to Creel. "It's not too late," she said. "You can still stop this madness." Creel's expression darkened, his cold eyes locking onto Soraya. "You don't understand," he growled. "This isn't about saving you, or saving me, or even saving Earth." He took a step forward, his voice growing more intense. "It's about survival. And that means doing whatever it takes." The soldiers stood silently, unsure of what to do. They could see the tension in the air, but they weren't sure if they were supposed to obey Creel or listen to Soraya. Creel turned to them. "Go ahead, do what you're trained to do." But the soldiers hesitated, looking at Soraya with uncertainty. "You're not like him," one of the soldiers muttered. Another nodded. "We've heard rumors about what he's really doing." Soraya felt a wave of hope. Maybe, just maybe, there were still humans who believed in the right thing. Creel's eyes flicked to the soldiers. His anger boiling over. "You'll regret this," he hissed. "You have no idea what you're up against." But before he could say anything else, Mila stepped forward and said loudly, "We'll stop you, Creel. And we'll tell the world what you've done." Creel's eyes flashed with fury. But then he turned on his heel. "If you want to stop me," he said, "you'll have to catch me first." He began walking away, his footsteps quickening. The soldiers hesitated. But Soraya grabbed Mila's arm and said, "We don't need them. We can stop them ourselves." Without another word, they turned and ran. The sound of Creel's footsteps faded. But they knew he wouldn't go down without a fight. They had to catch him, to stop the virus from being released. They couldn't let him succeed, not now, not when they were so close. The chase was on, but this time, Soraya was not alone. This time, she had Mila by her side. And that made all the difference. They ran through the dark streets, every step bringing them closer to the truth. Soraya knew the road ahead would be dangerous. But for the first time, she wasn't afraid. Because with Mila beside her, she had something to fight for. Asterisk. The streets were empty as Soraya and Mila raced through the city. The sound of their footsteps echoed through the dark alleyways. Soraya's glowing skin flickered with each step, a beacon in the shadows. But she didn't care about the light anymore. The only thing that mattered was reaching Creel before he released the virus. Mila's small hand gripped hers tightly. The girl's breath was quick, but her eyes were full of determination. Soraya could feel her fear. But she also felt something stronger, courage. "Don't worry," Mila said between breaths. "We'll stop him." Soraya looked down at the girl, amazed by her strength, despite everything that had happened. Mila was still standing beside her. She wasn't just a child anymore. She was a force of nature, a partner in this fight. They turned another corner and saw the glow of Creel's lab in the distance. It stood tall and cold, like a fortress made of steel and glass. Soraya's heart raced faster as they neared. They were close now, closer than they'd ever been. But she could feel something in the air, a sense of danger that made her hairs stand on end. "Soraya, do you think we can do this?" Mila asked. Her voice quiet. Soraya didn't answer at first. She only looked ahead, focusing on the building. She didn't want to lie to the girl. She didn't want to say what was on her mind. But the truth was that she wasn't sure. She didn't know if they could stop Creel and save the world. But she couldn't let Mila see her doubt. "We will," Soraya said, her voice steady. "We have to." Mila nodded and squeezed her hand. They were in this together, and together, they could do anything. They reached the entrance of the lab. A large steel door stood in front of them, locked tight. Soraya looked at it for a moment before turning to Mila. "You're good with locks," Soraya said, her lips curling into a small smile. Mila grinned and pulled out the tiny tool she had used earlier. "I've got this," she said confidently. She knelt down and began working on the lock. Soraya watched the child, her heart swelling with pride. Mila was amazing, calm, focused, and unafraid. It wasn't just her bravery that amazed Soraya. It was the way Mila believed in what was right. Even when everything seemed wrong, the lock clicked open, and the door creaked as it swung wide. Soraya stepped inside, her senses on high alert. The air was thick with the smell of chemicals and metal. The lab was dark, with only a few flickering lights illuminating the cold, sterile space. Creel was waiting for them. He stood near a large console, typing furiously on a keyboard. The virus was almost ready to be activated. Soraya could see it on the screen, a deadly red symbol flashing. She knew they didn't have much time. Creel turned as he heard the door open. His face twisted into a smile when he saw them. "You're too late," he said coldly. "The virus is already set to release. There's nothing you can do to stop it." Soraya stepped forward, her eyes burning with fury. "We won't let you do this, Creel," she said. "You've caused enough damage. We'll stop you right here." "Right now," Creel laughed, a low, mocking sound. "You're weak, Soraya," he said. "You've always been weak. Your people are weak, and this planet is weak." He looked at Mila and sneered. "And a little girl with no idea of what she's fighting for. She's just as weak." Mila stepped forward, her eyes hard. "I'm not weak," she said, her voice stronger than anyone expected. "I'm not afraid of you, Creel. You may think you're smart, but you're wrong about everything, because we have something you'll never understand." Creel's smile faded as he stared at Mila. "You think you can stop me," he said. "You think kindness and hope will win. Well, let me tell you, child, the world isn't kind. It's a place where only the strongest survive. And I am the strongest." But Mila stood her ground. "I don't need to be strong," she said. "I just need to do the right thing." Soraya felt something shift inside her. The warmth of Mila's words lit something in her heart. She had spent so long running from her past. But Mila was right. It wasn't about strength. It was about doing what was right, no matter the cost. "We won't let you get away with it," Soraya said. With a sudden burst of energy, she rushed toward the console. Creel tried to stop her, but Mila was faster. She grabbed his arm and pulled. He stumbled, losing his balance. Soraya reached the console and slammed her hand down. The screen flickered and blinked. The virus started to deactivate. Creel screamed in fury, but it was too late. Nitrogen monoxide. He shouted, his fists slamming against the console. But the system was shutting down, and with that, the world was saved. The virus was gone, and Creel was defeated. Soraya and Mila stood together. Breathing hard but triumphant, they had done it. They had stopped Creel and saved the world. Soraya looked at Mila, her heart full of pride and gratitude. "Thank you," Soraya said softly. Mila smiled. "We did it together, and for the first time in a long time." Soraya knew she wasn't alone. She wasn't just an alien hiding from humans. She was part of something bigger, and with Mila beside her, there was no battle they couldn't fight. The lab was silent, except for the low hum of the machines that had been deactivated. Soraya and Mila stood together in the dim light. Their breaths slow but steady. They had done it. Creel's dangerous plans had been stopped. The virus that threatened both their worlds was now nothing more than a memory. Soraya looked around the lab. The emptiness of it suddenly overwhelming. For so long, this place had been the source of her fear, her pain. But now, it was just a broken memory of a man who had tried to use her people for his own gain. A man who had underestimated the strength of human kindness. Mila's voice broke the silence. "Do you think it's really over?" Soraya turned to her, a faint smile crossing her tired face. "I hope so," she said softly. "But even if it's not, we're ready for whatever comes next." Mila nodded, her small face full of hope. She had proven that kindness and bravery could win over even the darkest of times. Soraya's mind wandered for a moment. She thought about her home, the distant planet of Alindra. She had come to Earth looking for a way to save her people. But instead, she had found something else. Something more powerful than any scientific discovery. She had found a new world, a new family, and a new future. "We should leave," Mila said, interrupting Soraya's thoughts. "People will start looking for Creel, and we don't want to be here when they do." Soraya nodded. "You're right, Mila," she said. "Let's go." Before anyone finds us. They walked quickly through the empty hallways, the silence echoing around them. The lab was still, as if nothing had ever happened. But Soraya knew the world outside was not still. It was waiting for answers, for peace. When they reached the exit, the bright sunlight hit them like a wave. It had stopped raining, and the sky was clear. A soft blue stretching out above them. Soraya stepped into the daylight, feeling the warmth of the sun on her skin. For the first time in a long time, She didn't feel the weight of the world on her shoulders. For the first time, she felt like she could breathe. Mila stood beside her, her hand still in Soraya's. They both looked out over the city, watching as life slowly returned to normal. People walked through the streets, unaware of the battle that had just taken place, unaware of the alien and the little girl who had saved their world. "I think we should go somewhere new," Mila said suddenly. Her voice full of excitement. Soraya smiled. "Where do you want to go?" Mila looked up at her with bright eyes. "Somewhere where we can start over," Soraya laughed softly. "I think that's a good idea." They walked away from the lab. Side by side, Soraya felt a sense of peace she hadn't felt in years. She wasn't just running anymore. She wasn't hiding. She had found her place in the world, and with Mila, she had found a purpose. As they walked down the street, a small crowd gathered. Some looked curiously at Soraya, others at Mila, but no one was afraid. No one screamed or pointed. The fear that had once surrounded Soraya was slowly fading away. And in its place was something new: acceptance. Mila tugged on Soraya's hand. "Look, it's the park." Soraya glanced up and smiled. There, just ahead, was a small park with trees and flowers. Children played on the swings, their laughter ringing in the air. Soraya had never seen anything like it. She had never seen humans so happy, so free. "That looks like a good place," Soraya said. "Do you want to go there?" Mila nodded eagerly. "Let's go." They crossed the street and entered the park. The sounds of the city slowly faded as they walked deeper into the green space. Mila ran ahead, her laughter bright and pure. Soraya followed her, feeling lighter than she had in years. The sun felt good. The air smelled sweet. And for the first time, Soraya allowed herself to believe in the future. Mila stopped at a small fountain and turned to Soraya with a grin. "I told you we could do it," she said. "We saved the world." Soraya knelt beside her, looking at the little girl with wonder. "Yes, we did," she agreed. "Together. We saved two worlds." Soraya looked out over the park. The peaceful scene before her. The future was uncertain. But for the first time, she wasn't afraid of it. With Mila by her side, anything was possible. And no matter what challenges lay ahead, Soraya knew they would face them together. She smiled softly as Mela played nearby, for the first time in a long time. Soraya felt at peace. Her journey was far from over. But with her new family, her new purpose, she was ready for whatever came next.